want to thank you for joining us today for this episode of Dreamers
and Doers. My name is Julie Russell, and this is my co-host, Lisa Saunders, a local author. Today we are privileged to have with us Cindy Modulewski, a mystic resident who has found purpose and meaning in her favorite recreational activity. Cindy?
Hi, thanks for having me on today. I'm here to tell you about my passion about kayaking. I moved to Mystic, Connecticut about 3 years ago, and I'm excited to say that since I live just about a mile around the corner from a wonderful put-in spot at the Mystic River, my husband got us a kayak. Not just one, but 3 kayaks, so that we could kayak here in the area, and it's just grown exponentially for me.
Wow, Cindy, you moved here 3 years ago, and it seems that you've already picked up kayaking lingo like a put-in spot.
Oh, did I say that?
Yes, and I didn't know what you meant by it when I first met you.
Could you explain that?
I'd be happy to. I want to bring attention to the cute sign behind Lisa and myself. It is, my husband heard me say that that was my favorite sign to look for. It's a picture of a man that is pushing a boat on top of the back of a car, standing on a ramp. And this particular sign has no name, but as you go driving around town, I want you folks to be looking for those brown signs that show water access, not only to a car top boat, but to perhaps if you had a pull behind in a motorized fishing boat or something like that.
So this is a water access sign.
Yes, it is. And many of the places would tell you the name of the water spot that you're at. For example, it might say Billings Lake, Barn Island, Amos Pond. It'll have different names.
Now, you've gotten really good at saying all the Indian names. Like that was, you've really made it kind of a mission when you moved here and you found that you loved kayaking, and that was the first thing you asked me to do when I met you, because I just moved here about a little over 2 years ago, and I met you at a dinner, and I was told that I wasn't welcome in certain clubs, because I don't know how to garden, I don't know how to do a lot of things. But you said, but you can kayak, and I'm going to teach you how. And I really appreciate that. And I've been kayaking with you many times. I was still looking for a friend with a sailboat or a motorboat, where I wouldn't really have to do that much and I could have a big adventure. Were you ever hurt that I kept looking for a bigger boat, or did you? No.
No. Those bigger boats make me queasy.
Okay.
But I find that when I kayak, because I'm doing the actual physical motion to make it move, that I do not get
Okay,
queasy.
so if you're seasick, you're not likely to be seasick on a kayak, perhaps.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I have to say, one of my biggest thrills when I went kayaking with you, I used to, when I moved here, I would sit there at the Mystic Drawbridge and see those happy kayakers just go under, whereas boats were sitting there with their motors idling, having to wait for the bridge tender. And the kayaker can just go underneath, and I can't believe that you gave me my dream come true, and I got to finally be one of those under the drawbridge people. In fact, I wrote about it in my book, Mystic Seafarers Trail. And I wrote about Cindy. In fact, when I meet people in town, they'll say, that's Cindy. Is that the Cindy I know from swimming at the Y? Is that what you met a lot of people at the Y, too?
I do, and I've used kayaking as an opportunity to kind of talk. Instead of just sitting at a cup of coffee, it's like I made a paddle yacker club so that you could chat, solve the world's problems, wash away the cares of the day. Just being on the water really makes it stress-free.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Cindy, you moved here 3 years ago and discovered a new hobby, kayaking. And it seems that you have used that not only to form friendships, but create an entire paddle yakking club.
Yes, I do enjoy talking while I paddle. So of course I fall in the category of I don't like the white water because then I can't think to talk. I prefer the calmer waters, although my daughter does like to go out in the open water, the tidal waters out in Stonington. And I have a couple friends that do prefer the more rambunctious waters, but they humor me and we'll go on the lakes and things like that.
Yeah, but you took me on a pretty rugged trip, and we had to go through a little chute to Mason's Island. I guess it's like a causeway to Mason's Island, and I had to paddle against that, like against the tide, going through that little chute. That was tough. And you've also taken me on some other tough ones where I was paddling against the tide. You've had some tidal stories too, right?
Yes, I have. But I think I'd like to take this moment to show a short video clip that Cindy provided explaining some of the details of kayaking.
Is somebody putting that in? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, while we wait.
Okay, sorry to cut you off, but I needed to get in early. How many minutes do we have on?
I can't believe that. But we didn't. Yes, it is. Oh my gosh.
I'm Cindy. I'm Lisa's friend, and I'm glad you came to go kayaking with me today.
Will you
The
tell us
first thing
about
you
that?
need to look for are those little brown signs that have pictures of boats to get into the water. Those are usually your free access spots. Today I'm down at Groton Long Point, at Esker Point, at the waterfront park. I'm going to push my boat in, kind of step in and give it a shove from the water. All right, I'm ready to go, and I'll see you again.
That was pretty cute. Like, I appreciated when you let me videotape you that day. Taped you and a friend, and you were really good at making your friends smile and wave to me. So you're pretty good on a camera.
Well, thanks. I was going to say that clip, I don't know if some of the local people recognized it, but that actually was over at Esker Point at the end of Groton Long Point. And I do customize where I take people to go kayaking. So if you're a first-time person or if you're more experienced, I also look at the weather. So if it's windy, I have some favorite places like the end of the Mystic River, or I can remember the very first time I saw BB Cove, and it was just beautiful. So I mean, I do customize where I take people.
Well, I've been afraid that you were going to leave me behind sometimes when we were you took us out to that area where you actually got in trouble. You were almost swept out into the Atlantic Ocean, weren't you? And then you took me there, and I didn't know why. If you were going to try to leave me behind, tell what happened there.
Well, that was at the I guess it's Quanachantog. A lot of the local people call it the Quanny Pond, and that's actually over in Westerly, Rhode Island. And that's a saltwater pond that is just a lovely place. It's not overly deep, and many of the places that I go, it's not overly deep, which makes it very nice and comfortable to paddle. But as you paddle from one end of that pond to the other, there is kind of like a breachway that takes you from the pond and gives you the access to the ocean. So if you lived on that place and had a larger boat and wanted to go out, that's how you would access to the ocean. And the closer you get, the tidal water does kind of sweep you along down the path, to the point where one time some onlookers saw my husband, daughter, and me going, and they said, "Shall we call 911?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." You know, they got a little closer than I felt comfortable going, and I know that they needed to really paddle hard. And I hollered to them, I'm thinking, oh, please, let's not have a calamity here. You know, I did turn around, and it was, I would say, 20 minutes of solid paddling, not to the fear of my life, but to keep the forward motion going, to get back out of that little channel. out back into where it was nicer and relaxing again. But, you know, you do want to see some of the exciting parts.
So this sounds like not only is it a good activity for your family and for you socially, but it's a confidence builder, and you also said it helps you with stress.
That is very true. I do notice at the beginning of the season, my arms are not as built up muscular-wise, so they're more fatigued. And I probably start out with a half an hour kayaking. By the end of the season, I'm very comfortable doing an hour's worth of paddling, and I do find that my swimming helps with the arm muscles a little bit.
I liked when we went to see the Marmion, the sunken boat in Stonington Harbor Bay. I forget what it's called, but I've always wanted to see that mast up close, and you can't really do that in a regular boat where you're worried about getting caught in the rigging, but that was kind of exciting when we saw that. Remember seeing the moss on the deck, and that ship sank. That was a boat from, well, before the 1930s even. And it sank due to neglect. They needed to keep the deck wet, and they didn't, and water got in, and it sank. But that was pretty exciting to see that.
That's a lovely place. That would be putting in at the Stonington Town Dock and kind of going to your right. And it's not very far around the corner to the right.
And that wasn't really even a bad paddle, if I remember correctly.
No.
I didn't have that feeling that you were going to leave me behind and I
No,
was going
no.
out to the ocean. But did you ever see that survival show where the guy left the weaker paddler?
No.
He couldn't get back to shore, and he thought, well, you know, I can't save him. I might as well save myself. And the guy was stuck out for a couple of days. So
No, that would not be good manners.
So what do you do in case that happens?
No.
Do you have a whistle on your little, like,
Well, yes,
vest?
the-
Or what do you have on your vest?
There
Show us
are
what
a
you
couple
have.
things that the DEP suggests that you have. That they have a checklist.
Now, the DEP is the Department of Environmental Protection.
Yes, thank you for correcting me on that. They do have safety check requirements as well as open water recommendations for things that you can do to be safe. And my goal is whoever I take kayaking, I want them to love it, feel comfortable, and I'm looking for repeat customers to come with me. So
show us what you
so
have.
for and I make sure that when I
Why don't
lend
you stand up, actually, because you're going to show us how to hold a paddle and everything and put it together. So.
when I take you kayaking, I do have loaner equipment so that you don't have to have anything. They do recommend that you have a light and a whistle. And that it be attached to your life jacket. So I do want to say for the record, nobody has ever fallen in, gotten wet, gotten lost, been left behind. So those are probably really critical, the whistle and the light. I believe in paddling all year long. As long as it's above 50 degrees. So I do have a pair of gloves that I like to wear. And a friend of mine, Elizabeth, very nicely lent me her, it's kind of like a waterproof bag that we put either the cell phone or a camera. And
It's a dry bag.
Yes, but this one is kind of like in miniature, which is nice. It's only the size of like the phone. I absolutely love the carabiner clips that can clip to your zipper, clip to your the side of your boat, whatever lines on your boat.
Rock climbing meets kayaking.
Yes, very true. One of the other things that I was going to show you is I brought my paddles today. There are many kinds, and I'm a beginner, but different people have different things that they like about theirs. The thing I like about mine is it is a collapsible one. Which means that it pinch clips in together, so it transports in a more. I stow them inside my boat, but I was going to show you.
Yeah, because I found when I was first kayaking, and I still don't think I have the best rhythm yet to really hold it so that I'm not exhausted after half an hour. So
Well, we like
if you
for
could
you
just
to be comfortable.
So just show
All right,
how
so
you would really hold
this basically pinches and slides into one of their notches, and you can. One of the important things that I learned the first year is don't get lazy and leave it clipped, because if it keeps the salt water in there, it does dry and harden.
Good to
And
know.
I did have to. I forget what we soaked it in. Maybe it was vinegar or something, but it it pays to separate it each time. One of the things that I want to show you is that these look like spoons. And the best way to kayak and paddle is you really hold it at the width of your arms. And granted, this is backwards for how I would do it, but I wanted you to see that the words, the name of the brand is at the top, and the larger portion, that's the scoop, is at the bottom. If you just pretend that you're holding spoons, that you want to scoop your water, that's really all you're doing. You don't need to dip it big, deep, and it's just at a comfortable back and forth kind of motion to make sure that you just scoop up the water, and that you have a forward motion, and then that you can do it in reverse to kind of slow your motion or to come to a stop, or if you needed to turn yourself around.
Now, I found when I went kayaking with a double kayak or tandem,
A tandem.
that it seemed the paddling seemed extra hard, and I thought it was going to be easier if there were two people paddling. Do you have any opinion as to why that could be? What was the person behind me doing, or was I not paddling correctly?
I think you do have to develop a communication system if you're in a tandem, just so that just in the motion and the space, that you're sharing your space and your movements well, so that and I think Jules probably would know better who's the lead person in a tandem.
Yes, I paddle in a tandem, and the individual who is forward is the lead, and the person in the rear must match their paddle to the forward person's to keep the paddles from banging into one another. And one part of that is the person in the rear must be paddling. Do you think that your paddle partner was doing?
Well, when I turned around, I didn't see that paddle going. But
well, that could
name names or accuse anybody.
That could be part of it.
So you think a beginner probably has an easier time almost in their own kayak, unless they're allowed to just sit and do nothing in the back, right? For a beginner, you
Yes,
think?
I think so. I know over the summer my husband and I had an opportunity to share a tandem, and I didn't like it as well as the individual one. I found that every motion seemed like if you wiggle or wobble, I didn't want to wiggle or wobble with you. Like,
Okay.
What I like about being in my own kayak is my movement is what I'm anticipating, and I can be not so much in control, but I'm anticipating what that motion and action is, that I felt much more comfortable. And I don't know, Jules, are most of the tandems sit on top as opposed to?
There are both sit-in and sit on
Okay.
top in tandem and single kayaks, and there are many different types. I know that perhaps you can speak to that before we end, but the tandem definitely has both, and it is really a partnership. It's not something that would easily be done with somebody that perhaps you don't have a good communication level with.
Well, that's true. I did find that the size of the boat makes a difference. I know
It's definitely heavier.
well, oh my gosh, I don't even want to talk about how heavy your boat is. I mean, your tandem one does weigh a ton. I almost think it was like, what, at least 80 pounds or heavier, I think.
Well, it weighs, I think, 72.
That could be.
Now,
it
if you
was
don't own a
heavy.
kayak, what can you do? Are there a lot of places to rent a kayak in Mystic?
You can, and I would encourage people to do that. My first time kayaking was on vacation in Hilton Head, and that was long before I ever knew that I would be in Connecticut, where I might ever have one. But it was easy enough to just do. It was very pleasant. Got to tour in the waterways with a tour guide. So I mean, we just found that really
was
nice.
a tour. Where did you receive kayaking lessons?
No, because really it is that easy. I mean,
It is easy. I have to say, it's a simple sport. really.
before they take you very far, they make sure that you've got a command of use of your kayak with the paddles, going forward, stopping, going in reverse.
I am aware that Groton Recreation has many kayaks available and summer courses for the community.
Yes,
that
and
is
actually
one resource.
That's at a very lovely place. That's at BB Cove,
Yes.
Down as you approach Noank. It's a lovely place and a lovely resource
Well,
to
we
tap
need
into.
to wrap up. Is there anything you'd like us to know that we didn't ask?
Probably the one thing that I would encourage people, if they're interested, you can obtain this cute little book, the Connecticut Boater's Guide, at any of the marinas. It talks about the tidal waters, lakes, ponds, and streams.
That's a good thing to know.
That lets you know where you can go, what the access, how many parking, what kind of access. They do tell you where that is. And
Where to find your sign.
And
yes.
also, Cindy was kind enough to write up a lot of these things that we're discussing, and I put it on my website, mysticseafarerstrail.com, so they can go click in there and they can look at all the links that you provided. Some is rental, some is where to find the put-in spots. There's one that I love, a history kayaking guide, where you can kayak up Mystic River and know what you're looking at. The Historical Society put that out. So we have included a lot of links for that. So, well, thank you, Cindy,
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Yes,
And
we
your
appreciate
passion. You are a doer and not just a dreamer. You're never a dreamer, I have to say. You are a doer.
Well, somebody has to dream. But thank you very much.
thank you, guys.